You're on.
Hey! How's everybody doing this week? Happy President's Day this Monday. Yay, we celebrate the presidents here on Welcome Back to America. We've got a lot coming up. We've got a great show for you. As you know, we've been going throughout the country and world, delving into comedy in different areas. Last week we went to England. Week before we went to Salt Lake City. And this week we're in India and Sri Lanka. We did a couple of interviews with a couple of comedians out there. Assad Kahn, who's a funny improviser, and also we had Kapilthev KI, who is a model and wrote a book, and he's doing some comedy now out of Sri Lanka. So Millie went down to India, spent a couple of weeks there recently, and did some research. What'd you come up with?
I came up with this. Namaste, Dan.
Yeah.
That means the meeting of the minds. May we have it.
Oh, yeah, we always, our minds are always meeting.
I bow to you.
I appreciate that. I should be bowed to. I agree.
So let's talk about India.
Yeah, let's talk about India.
Let's get that map up about India. So India, not knowing, it has actually 29 states in it, individual. The dark blue on the left-hand side, I guess, that's Mumbai, what we're going to talk about. And on the very bottom is like the teardrop of India, which is Sri Lanka.
Very cool.
Yes, we're going to talk about those two places. Mumbai is the biggest city in India.
Yes, the most populated.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
There it is. It's originally Bombay. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that till you told me that earlier. I still thought Bombay was a place.
Right, and I thought it was Dr. Bombay from I Dream a Genie.
Right.
It is the home of Bollywood.
Of course,
Yes,
everybody knows that. They make more movies than they do in the United States.
Wow, and they do musicals, a lot of Bombay musicals, or Bombay, you know what I mean, Bollywood. And they do films, and they do, this film is about reincarnation. The people in the back were, you know, sometimes it takes 2 lifetimes to fall in love. That's what this movie's about.
Yeah, that's an interesting little concept. It reminds me of Mannequin. That movie from the 80s.
Yeah.
Sort of like, oh, your past is so sort of.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so, you know, it's not like Tinseltown. It's more like Smogtown. You know, in Hollywood, everybody's very conscious, health conscious, and they, you know, they get a lot of cosmetic surgery. So look, Cher's 80 years old. I mean, no one can get her a part that she's going for.
She looks like 40.
Yeah, she looks unbelievable. But you know, over in Mumbai, pollution is really bad where Bollywood is, and it's like you smoke 100 cigarettes a day. That's how bad the pollution is. You know, but the good thing about it is that you have a chance of actually getting a part in the movie because, you know, one day you don't have the movie, the next day, you know, you got the movie because somebody croaked and you got
smoking. Yeah, they do smoke a lot more in India these days. That's my understanding. Is that almost everybody smokes in it.
Well, why not? I mean, really, you might as well smoke if they're going to make. It's all from fuels, from the congestion of traffic. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of it over there.
Yeah.
And here in New York, I mean, there wasn't until recently.
You know, I want everybody to know that in India, for transportation, they go on trains. They don't go on flying carpets. They don't have genies that live in bottles, you know, and if you eat a cow of any way, you're a sinner or a criminal.
Yeah, they do look at the cow as a sacred thing.
Yes.
I think those other two things, though, the carpet ride and the bewitched picture, I think that sort of is like, comes off, those are stereotypes.
Well, whatever.
You know, yeah.
No. I feel a little dirty because I had a McDonald's hamburger today.
Oh,
so
yeah.
now I'm a sinner and a criminal.
I'm eating meat right now.
But if you see a cow in the street, you're supposed to hug it.
I would hug a cow?
Yes.
Oh, I would hug a cow.
They're very cute.
I would hug a cow too much with a cow. I'd always like, get this guy.
Now, that might be a problem, though, Dan.
Yeah. No, not like that.
Okay. This was in the news, this Mumbai man. He was just in his bed, evidently playing with his smartphone, when it collapsed on him. And he was buried for 10 hours.
Oh, the anxiety.
Yeah, crazy. But he had a smartphone, and it was fully charged. And, you know, you would just think, hopefully, maybe they would do a little bit more better with the foundation of the house. Use some of that money to make a better foundation.
I think it would be really funny if he like had to have a conversation with his telephone company about payment, and he was like, "No, but we can't let you get your call through until you pay." It's like, but I'm stuck underground. I think that would be a great conversation to have with Verizon or T-Mobile.
By the way, that guy, he was fine.
Oh yeah, great. He looked
fine.
Yeah, he looked.
And
like
he got great, upgraded on his phone, so he's very happy.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, he's got the family.
So now Sri Lanka, take a look at this picture. Sri Lanka is so tropical and gorgeous. I mean, it's as tropical as it can get. But they have little islands that people with a lot of money actually can rent a whole island. There's a villa on there.
That's nice.
But I just want to say something for us regular guys that, we can get a group of people together, everybody put their moolah in the middle.
Right.
And then you can actually get the island and you can like play beer pong together or whatever, not the rich people do. Shots.
Hey, if you're trying to like get frat boys to come, yeah, that'd be great. The beer pong's
But we can all afford it.
I think that we would have a great time. So we're doing that. We're trying to pool money together. We need $45,000.
And 45 people.
Yeah, and 45 people.
To rent it.
Yeah, and that's for 24 hours. It's a 24-hour rental.
Wow.
45 people.
That's a long
Be a great
flight.
party. Great party.
But that's a long flight for 24 hours.
Yeah, but you just party. You stay up all the time. You just ball.
Sounds good. I'm in.
Yeah.
We'll get a group together.
Yeah, we'll get a group together.
One thing that I really do love about India is that you can eat the food with your hands. Sauce, soup, whatever you want to eat it with your hands.
You can eat with your hands here, too. It's just,
No, but it's most acceptable there. Most acceptable.
I'm usually shoveling food like this. I eat by my hands going back and forth into my mouth. That's how I do it.
Very nice.
Shovel like this.
The one thing that... not the one thing, but Sri Lanka is known to be the home of cinnamon.
Yes.
Yeah. Not the stripper.
No, not with an S, not S-I-N.
No,
it's
the one with the trees, the cinnamon trees. 70% of all spices are made in India. Is that amazing? And tea is second most after China.
After China.
Yeah. So comedy is very big in Sri Lanka.
Huge.
I watched,
in India, it's so big right now.
I watched stand-up. I mean, I couldn't understand it, but it seemed funny.
Yeah, no, they have, you can see it in timing. Usually, if you like comedy, you can see the beats as the comedian's doing them. It's an interesting...
This was funny. The girl was supposed to get the date, and instead the father got the date. With the okay.
Oh, and so the father got the date with the guy?
They have Facebook.
Of course,
this is great. You can look it up on Facebook.
They have Instagram, the Sri Lanka Comedy Art Group. Yeah,
yes, Instagram. So this one meme that I saw is the bride is on the bed and the groom. This is their honeymoon. He's at the computer and he's saying, let me delete my search history. That's the big meme that everybody was doing, or Dogecoin or whatever they want to say. But we would say it here in New York or whatever, that we would say, hey, come on over here, let's watch some porn.
Right.
It wouldn't say delete the search history unless he died. Right.
It does say in my will, though, I have a few people designated to delete my search history. And I know you're watching.
You should just do it as you go along. I do. In India, they have a lot of strong women.
Yes.
There's more women in Sri Lanka than India. Sri Lanka has a lot of women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful women. Beautiful women in Sri Lanka.
And strong. There was a woman working in a tea garden that she was attacked by two leopards, or not two, I'm sorry, it was only one. And she fought them off with her bare hands.
That sounds like a sequel to The Revenant, like a pitch. Like you're trying to pitch a sequel.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing a good job.
I think it's...
10 minutes she fought this leopard.
That's crazy.
10 minutes. And then she, the leopard, he took off. And then she went to the hospital, and then she went back to work, like 2 days later or something. That's strong.
If you want to kill a leopard, pull their legs apart. Pull their back hind legs apart.
I do not want to kill one.
I don't want to do that, but,
yeah.
if I got
it. If you have to, then, well.
Send a leopard my way.
I'm not working at a tea garden.
Let's
just put that out there. Maybe a beer garden.
No, maybe a beer garden.
Yeah. So,
if they open
the next picture is of Miss India. Very pretty.
Yes, I know this lady.
Preeti Upala.
Yeah.
That's her name. And she's an investment banker, Hollywood entrepreneur, and a multimedia personality. And
that's right.
She went on a lunch date with DB.
That's an over-explanation explanation. We ate hors d'oeuvres at an event together and chatted for a couple of hours. And she's great. It was really cool to meet Miss India. There are many of them, but she was a lot of fun. She's a very interesting lady.
Yeah, and I have to say, how
Very
tall
positive.
is she?
She's 7'3". I'm actually on stilts. Yeah, she's tall. I know it's weird. Just perspective is very.
She's
very
tiny.
Weird. Yeah, she's really tiny.
She's adorable.
Yeah, she's nice.
And
She's
so
nice.
are the comedians that you have coming on, that you interview.
Yeah, we have a couple of great comedians coming on tonight on to Welcome Back to America. We have Kapilthev KI, who's from Sri Lanka, and we'll talk a little bit about modeling and his book and doing comedy out of Sri Lanka. And we also have Assad Kahn, who's from Mumbai, and he's going to talk about comedy out of Mumbai.
He does a lot of improv.
Yeah, he does a lot of improv. They're both really talented guys. I really thank you all for checking out the show. Stay tuned after these commercials. Please watch them. Watch the interviews. Welcome back to America.
Happy President's
Millie
Day.
Micheals. Happy President's Day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Namaste. Hey, now it's my show.
Hey, everybody. It's Welcome Back to America. Once again, I am DB Frick. I am here today with a really funny guy who's out of Sri Lanka. His name is Kapilthev KI. He's written books. He's been a model. He's most recently started doing a lot of improv online internationally, which is a pretty awesome thing, if you ask me. Ladies and gentlemen, Kapilthev KI. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. But you're butchering my name, though. It's just a short form of my name.
What is the full name?
Kapilthev KI.
Does that mean something? Does that have a meaning, or does it come from something?
Yeah, basically, you know the god Ganesh?
Yes.
Both of them sort of in the mantra of them while we pray to them. So both came from that mantra to Ganesh.
Interesting. Very interesting. We talked recently about your upbringing in Sri Lanka, and you grew up with a very big family, correct?
In my early days, I was a part of a big family, but as I was growing, that all my family members separated. All my sisters got married, and they all went to Europe, and only one sister and my mom. So we became a close family very early. There's I think I was 10, 9 when I was with the big family, but after that, full on, just alone, my mom and my sis, and she's also went out when I was a teenager.
What we like to get into here on Welcome Back to America is really what got people to first want to be a performer, what got them on stage, what got them in front of the camera, what made them want that. What was it that pushed you in that direction?
Well, before that, before I even thought about acting or comedy or anything like that, I was just being normally on stage and giving speeches and doing that, but never actually developed any passion for it. But just at the age of 9 and then 10, my life went through a drastic change. I was introduced to Western media and like Disney. And even though I saw earlier movie with Will Smith and I was like, yeah, that's the coolest guy that I know. Men in Black 2, but it never latched on. But when Western media got into my head, I was like, no, you got to seek attention. You got to be these guys.
Right, that is a very Western thing, a very American thing to want everyone's attention and to think that we're that important, that we deserve all that attention. What was your first time? Do you ever perform on stage? Have you been on stage?
I did. So I did before in my language. Like I said, I didn't have that much passion to it. But just as I watched Western movies and cartoons, I was like hoping for the next chance to jump in. And there was this English teacher. She was a very interesting teacher because she started to do an English play in a Tamil school, and that play is jungle politics. And they were actually looking. They filled all the roles. They were looking for a guy who can play lion, and they needed a big voice in English. So in my school, like very few kids spoke English. Even if they did, they're like very stage fright, so they weren't able to do all the. So I blab in school all the time. So the teachers know, oh, that guy can talk, so get him. And they actually came to me, was like, yes, I'll do it. And that was a comedic play actually, and I didn't actually understand what the comedy was later on in my years. The comedy is that I was the newly elected president, and I'm the lion. Like, we are having a meeting about what to do with humans. I mean, they're starting global warming, they're doing all this thing, and what should be done. And we were going through procedures, like every animal was presenting something. I was like, being a sleazy politician. And while we're doing that, a human is burning down the forest. So it finally ends in the stage getting burned down a little bit. And that was my very first show. And that was the thing that I actually passionate about to do it. Before that, I did some stage plays and I wasn't into it. But even though I did in the competitions, I did go far. And then a story competition, which I'm very proud of because I won first place.
Okay, I'm not surprised. You speak very well. You speak very educated. You come off like someone who might write a book, which apparently you have written a book called Finding Markandeya. Markandeya. I'm proud of the beginning of a new age. I didn't butcher the last part of that. And that sounds like a really interesting story. Tell me a little bit about that.
So before writing that book, I just had a hernia injury. So I was going through a surgery, and you got it 2 times. Wow.
Yeah.
So it was gonna be a routine surgery. There was nothing fancy about it, but I had a chronic cough, and so usually if you do the surgery, the cough stops. But for me, it didn't stop because it wasn't actually because of the hernia. The cough didn't stop because of the hernia. So they didn't think that. So I woke up. The surgery was not done with anesthesia. They numbed me because they were afraid that my old asthma would act up and I would something would happen. So I woke up and everything should be fine. And then normally when you cough, like your stomach hurts, right? But right now you're cut open and you have a fresh wound going all the way to your abdomen. And the cough came. And it was like someone stabbed me from inside with a blade. And wow. It didn't stop.
And how old were you?
And it didn't stop for 3 weeks. And they got another doctor. And the surgeon doctor said, don't worry, nothing's going to happen. The patch will hold it. But the VP doctor was like, yeah, if you don't stop this cough, that's going to come out again.
How old were you at the time?
Sorry?
How old were you at the time?
At that time, I was 16.
Okay.
Or at the year of 16, I think. So I was actually studying business. I wanted to study arts, but in my school, they didn't have English literature. They didn't have Western drama. So they gave me 3 subjects to study in arts, even though in Sri Lanka, we have a broad of subjects.
Right.
So they took me to business school and I was being a good student. I didn't think about performing or anything. I toned everything back about my dream of being a Hollywood actor and everything. But when I was going through this painful stuff, I was like, God, is this the worst thing that life could offer me? I should definitely start doing something that I love.
I think I should do something. It's the worst thing that life offers.
So I started, at that time I was also praying a little bit because the pain was too much. And I started writing. I was actually, even though I'm not very religious, I got good marks in religion. Like all my marks are about 80, 90 in religion as my English is. So I knew a lot of Hindu mythology and I just took this character from Hindu mythology who should have died after his 16th birthday, but he doesn't. She didn't. So he was 16 forever, and so my idea thing. So he's supposed to be alive right now. So yeah, I can build up on something like that. And there was also another immortal who was punished being an immortal, and he would have all the disease in the world, and he can't die, and he had to walk around the earth with all the diseases and all the pain. So that these are the two people. If you have an antagonist, protagonist, I can write an apocalypse story around it, and I did. Even though the story was kind of, you know, fantastic fantasy stuff, it was good. But in the ending, because, you know, like that, I had a very religioustic ending.
Okay.
But even though it had that, it got picked up. Olympia Publishers published my book. I think it sold about 15 copies, and right now I have owned the rights. They stopped selling it.
It's still an awesome accomplishment. I know a lot of people who've written books. I have a lot of friends who've written books. I've never written any books. I think it's a huge accomplishment just to be able to say you did it and sold a few books. It's a big deal, much bigger deal than you're letting on. Now, you're from Sri Lanka, and as we can tell from the beautiful visage behind you, which is where you are, you're on the beach right now. What is the comedy scene like in Sri Lanka? Is there one? How have you been part of it?
So here's the thing. In Sri Lanka, we have two big communities. The Sinhalese community, who is the majority, and our Tamil community, which is the minority. And we don't actually have industry in film, comedy, or anything like that. Because all of our influence, our culture comes from a part in India, where the South Indian community, the same people, the Tamil race. So they have a huge industry there, and we just stream their media into us. We didn't have to create everything because we were going through a lot of struggles at that time. So a couple of news stations, and that's about it. You don't get comedy inspirations, you don't get shows, you don't get theater. And even though if artists want to be something, they would go to India, or if they do want to do something in the Western world, they would go to UK or US, something like that.
So you can't go
So
to a
pretty
comedy
much,
club? You can't go to a comedy club in Sri Lanka? There's nothing like that?
you can go to a comedy. You can go to one in Colombo. There are some couple of opened ups, but they're very new. They're not. They haven't been there forever. They're like, I think, just because I think at the social media age, I think they opened that up. But even though they would do comedy in Sinhala, that's the other language. That's the majority language. So nothing in Tamil. Sometimes they would do in English because we get a lot of tourists. So hotels do sometimes hire comics who can do English comedy. But even then, they would just take up a famous celebrity, someone people knew, so they can put him on. They're not going to take a young comic who's this guy, so they're not going to pay to watch him. So other than that, even if I want to present stand up, I can't. There's nothing here. In my place, nothing.
Do you ever go up to India? Do you ever spend any time up there? And what is the difference between Sinhalese and Tamil? That's
the main difference is the language and the religion. So the Sinhalese will speak Sinhala, and we would speak Tamil. And the religion, we are Tamil people can be Hindu, Christian, and religion can be changed. But mainly, the majority of Sinhalese are Buddhist. And Christian, I think Christianity is sort of mixed in everything. So we have Tamil Christians and Sinhala Christians. So it's mixed in everything.
How careful would a comedian have to be about what they say on stage? Is there a presence of you stay away from politics, you stay away from just about everything except for like jokes about falling down, like farts, things like that? What kind of comedy is represented if there is any effort by law to make people not say certain things?
Well, the thing is that we had a civil war, and it only ended in like 2009 or 2008. Might be wrong about the year. So I was still alive though. So because of that, there are things you should say and you should not say. There's always been that. So at that time, social media wasn't that much of a big thing, and we didn't even have thought to do anything about it. But when social media came, some people started to spur stuff up, and it was telecasted on the news, and they were shutting people down. And we still had a fear. If we say something wrong, the cops might show up in our place. Because we don't actually, I think we are a bit conservative, even though we do seem like a free country to do everything, but I think we are very much conservative. So some cultural things, you can't talk bad about somebody else's culture. So that's clearly stated on the news. You shouldn't talk about anyone else's culture badly. And we can't touch on religion. And so those stuffs, even in politics, you can't, other than like in journalism, like in papers, they would draw silly cartoons. That's about it. You don't get like sketches in the news, like making fun of stuff. Nothing like that. But right now, because of social media, memes are a huge thing now. So everyone's sort of making fun of that with memes in Facebook. Like you would see political comedy in memes. But other than that, there was one stand-up comic, it was a singular comic. I think he made some jokes about why he doesn't do politics in his comedy act, because he's in Sri Lanka, and why doesn't talk about it. So like there are singular comics in England now, and they sometimes they take a little whack at it because they're in a safe distance. So other than that, we don't. We stay very careful. So I think the best thing you can be right now here is be a Jerry Seinfeld. You can play that safe, then awesome.
Observational about ubiquitous things that just are going on. What, excuse me, if you could have one superhero power, what would that superhero power be?
Which is, that has a funny story within itself. So, I was the guy who started watching Western cartoons at the first time. So I was the guy who first saw Justice League in my grade. So I was the guy who sees cartoons and then give characters to my friends, and we would play around with superheroes. So I saw Justice League, and you would think the first superhero would pick is Superman because he has all the power and he's the strongest guy. And I was watching this entire season. I was the guy who first watched it. I picked Batman and gave Superman to my friend, and didn't even realize what a huge mistake that was. So
you were subconsciously giving your friends the opportunity to win.
Well, yeah, but I think the reason because in this series, and that particular series, Justice League series was going around in 2003 to 2007. At that time, the storyline there was Wonder Woman and Batman were a couple.
Right.
And Superman had Lois Lane. And when you look at Wonder Woman, you go, okay, who's her boyfriend? That's what you go for. Even I think I was about 9 or 10, but that was in my head. I was thinking that. So Batman was the guy who she hung out with and had a little romantic moments there. And I couldn't tell that Batman had powers or not, because I like Dracula a lot, and he seemed like a vampire dude. He ran through fire buildings. So I assumed that he would have super strength. He would be able to fly. He just doesn't do them a lot. That's what I thought. And he acts like the tough guy. But so I gave Superman to someone else. Before that, I was Spider-Man. I gave up on Spider-Man. I was Batman, and Superman was the guy. Green Lantern was this guy. And as I got older, when I understood, my friend, we would have who would win in a fight. And then at that time, it came back and bit me in the butt and say, yeah, Batman's not going to beat anyone in the Justice League.
That story alone, that idea that you were brought this thing, this American thing, the Justice League, and that you brought it to your young friends so that you could play, is a great story in and of itself. You should write that story. I would love to hear more about that. If you were on the run with a bag of money, where would you hide the money and where would you hide?
I was on the run and I have a bag of money. I would just open up an account.
You'd get caught. But okay, that's a decent answer. You'd probably get caught.
I would just get a friend and tell them just, open up an account in your name and say how you got this money. You probably sold something. You ran into a family fortune. And, whenever I needed, get money from an ATM. I have very close friends like that who would do that for me.
Who are some of, in the last couple of minutes that we have here, who are some of the people that you feel like shaped your sense of humor?
so Will Smith was the first, the charisma and comic ability. So that was the first. But then like Brendan Fraser was very at that '90s time that he was everywhere, and even in the 2000s, his movies were playing in TVs, and I had DVDs of it, and I was like, so that's who I had to be. I need to be like this Indiana Jones guy, but also silly, and he would make jokes, and he would be a handsome cartoon. So he was the very first when it comes to comedic acting, and that's why I thought I should be an actor like that. Even my friends would say that I want to be Wolverine. I want to audition for Wolverine. Say, yeah, you're not going to get Wolverine. You probably end up like Deadpool or the Brandon Fraser guy in The Mummy. That's all you get. So I was pegged as that guy. And Robin Williams was a huge influence on me, and I knew him in the Disneys and Flubber movies. I watched most of Robin Williams comics, and he had this chaotic energy. He didn't really had a plan to do anything, so he was like a walking Looney Tune to me. So so whenever I rant or whenever I do improv shows, that's where I go for. Just throw all the madness in there.
I recently watched a Robin Williams Evening at the Met, which was 1984 or 1985, and it's an hour and a half of comedy. And he said he literally went on stage, nothing prepared, and it was one of the biggest influences on me as a kid to be a comedian. And I just watched it a couple of days ago for the first time. And he also said that he was on cocaine the whole time, like he was very on cocaine through the whole thing. He like doesn't even remember it. But Robin Williams was a huge influence for me too.
But I would say this even though Robin Williams I still viewed them as comedic actors. I didn't know that stand-up was like this big thing. Even like I said, I saw Western stuff in DVDs, movies, and some programs, but stand-up was never shown to me when I was very little. So I'm going to use the word that you don't basically like. At very late in my life, even though I only lived for 23 years, I saw Eddie Murphy after I was going through a depressed stage because I won a scholarship and I couldn't be able to use it. So at that time, somehow Eddie Murphy's Delirious was on YouTube, and I saw it, and I was like, I knew Eddie Murphy before, and I was like, whew.
Wow, yeah, he blew you away. That was like 1983 too. Delirious.
I didn't think that I could laugh that much. That the one show is like, okay, I gotta consume more. So in my heart, it was like Delirious and Eddie Murphy. The other thing he did, I couldn't name it though. He had a purple thing, jacket.
Yeah, it was Raw.
That, and then Dave Chappelle, then also Jerry Seinfeld. So, and also Robin Williams. And I thought, oh, he was a stand-up comic. Yeah. So before that, he was just a comedic actor. But then these guys, like, I have to do this. I don't know. And I started writing jokes right after that. After seeing that, I just like, okay, I'm going to start writing some jokes. And right now, I have a page that I haven't actually used a lot.
Well, Kapilthev, you're an amazing energy and you're an incredible talent. You're very funny. I look forward to seeing more of you in the coming years. And I look forward to getting to know you better. Is there any place that people can go check out your stuff if they want to see you? Some of your modeling, some of your performance, some sketches you're working on?
You can actually check me out on my YouTube channel, which was also another thing that I started just because I was in the Star Now page and I needed to put some work in there so people could see. So I just did some voices from cartoons and opened up that channel just for that.
I love it.
But then after that, it became another thing because my scholarship didn't work. So me and my friend you know what? We're depressed. Let's do some comedy. And another influence that I failed to mention was Rowan Atkinson. So that's one of the first things that I did in my YouTube channel where I'm doing sketches. So you can check me out on SWAT Deeds. That is SWATT and space DEEDS. Awesome. The meaning of that name is just, we do pointless stuff. And we had a slogan. Me and my friend recorded that, but we never played it. We say, hey, we do everything, anything, and absolutely nothing. That was our whole show.
Like Seinfeld. Kapilthev, thank you so much for coming down today. It's been great talking to you. Thanks for checking out Welcome Back to America. And we will be right back after these messages. Hi, everybody. Stevie Frick here with Welcome Back to America. I have something really special for you today. I have a real interest in this, as some of the subjects that we're going to talk about today. This is a very funny guy I've met recently doing some improv with a group out of the United Kingdom. And they're a very, very, very funny group. And I've seen our friend Assad Kahn right now, who also runs he's the producer of Creating Humor and Improv Experience and World Improv, which we'll talk a bit about more after we start getting to know him a little bit. Thanks for coming down, Assad. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. This is really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to this. I have chills down my spine as we speak.
That's great. Assad is in Mumbai, India right now, which is very far away, and it's 10:30. Yeah. It's about 10:30 p.m. where you are.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to get into kind of immediately when I do these interviews is I'd love to know what got you on stage, what made you want to be a performer, and was it a person you knew? Was it maybe movies you saw? How did that all happen for you?
Right. So the thing about stage is that so me as a person, I have extremely low confidence, right, all my life. And I was very very nervous, and I stammer a lot. Like if you put me on the spot talking to someone really important, I'll stammer all over the place. It's ridiculous. And born with this defect, I always had a problem with this. And surprisingly enough, this was one thing that was happening. And for me, being on stage was never a problem at all. It was never a problem. I was never conscious about that. I was only conscious about talking to people and stammering and being nervous and having low confidence. But on stage, I used to go up there and just knock it out of the park all the time. Back in school, I used to be a lot of stage things like short plays and stuff like that, and some little comedy skits or of that sort. I used to do that a lot back in school, and I never had a problem with that. So I was very comfortable up on stage. I never had this, oh my God, people are watching me. What are they going to think? I'm going to stammer. Bad things are going to happen to me. Nothing of that sort. I was just up there, just doing my thing, and I was very comfortable. So stage was never a problem for me. And now still, no one really inspired me as such. I don't particularly remember what exactly made me go up there, but I think there was an opportunity and I just wanted to do it. So I did it. So that was it. Yeah.
When did you get into improv specifically?
Specifically on stage improv, I got into it, say around 2.5 years ago, maybe. Stage improv. Yeah, not a long time ago. Not a long time ago. However, I have been improvising all my life, and I have always wanted to do improv. And I'm just a guy who likes making jokes on the spot. Like it just happens for me naturally. And big fan of Whose Line Is It Anyway? So
agreed.
Yeah.
That was some of the first improv I watched. I started when I was about 14
Yeah.
in high school, and I've never really stopped. I've taught it a lot. I've done a lot of it, but I didn't during the pandemic. It's really just been through Extreme that I've done any improv, and it's been a lot of fun with all the people that we've met there. I would love to know a little bit about the comedy scene in Mumbai. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about the comedy scene in any Asian countries. I've been able to get around to some European countries, but they end up being very similar to here. I would imagine it somewhat different. And you're in what I believe is the most populated area of the world. Isn't Mumbai is one of the most populated?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is actually. It is. I wouldn't say most populated. I am not entirely sure about the
I don't know
numbers,
either.
but yes, but yes, it is. Let's just say congested. Mumbai is congested as hell. You can say that for sure. A lot of people come to Mumbai.
So I would
So yeah,
think that there's a lot of comedy competition.
yeah. Well, the comedy competition, I wouldn't say that it's like a really, really competitive scene here, because the scene is doing great for people, and it's like the career to have, because that's not true at all. It is one of the riskiest and the most absurd careers to have over here. And the comedy scene here, it is slowly picking up. Like it wasn't. People are still accepting the fact that okay, we can go to comedy shows, and there's something called stand-up comedy, because back in the day the only stand-up comedy that used to be was basically, it was only limited to maybe mimicry and having some cultural references and just some loud over the top reactions and stuff of that sort.
Now, is that because of law? Because you have to be careful about what you're saying there?
Well, that's quite an interesting subject, because the thing is that over here people are very sensitive about everything. They do not have a sense of humor, like, at all. Uh, so India needs to lighten the fuck up. It's ridiculous what people do when it comes to getting offended. So stand-up comedians here are always on the radar. They are always being monitored, and basically comedy venues get thrashed and broken down, and people get thrown behind bars. People get thrown behind bars. In fact, we are dealing with a situation where a comedian from Mumbai is currently behind bars for jokes that he did not even tell.
Okay.
And
What kind of jokes are they? I wouldn't put you in the position of telling those jokes, but what kind of jokes were they?
It's basically religious and political stuff that really upsets people. Mostly it's the religious stuff.
Right.
It is the religious. People cannot tolerate being offended, because we have 33 crore gods over here. No, sorry, 33,000 crores. That's like, I don't know, like millions and millions of gods over here in India. So that's a lot of material for people to write and joke about, but people do not take it very lightly. That's
Now,
what it is.
Did you grow up in Mumbai? Have you lived in Mumbai most of your life?
I have lived in Mumbai all my life, yes. And Mumbai is basically the place to be for stand-up comedy. For comedy in general, that is the place to be. If anything comes close, that would be Delhi. But these two prime locations of India, the main metro cities, that's what we like to call them. So it's Mumbai and Delhi. The otherwise seen in Bangalore, maybe it is there. I mean, it's a weak scene throughout the country. It's not that great, but yeah, Mumbai is the place to be.
Do you know a woman named Priyete Uppala? I know there's like a billion people, but she was one of the Miss Indias, or she won a show. And I got to the last party that I went to before the pandemic ended was a party where I was essentially at the party as an extra, because they needed more people to be at the party. But she was one of the speakers, and I got to hang out with her for like 2 hours. I got to eat with her, and she was she lives in Los Angeles now, but I know that she was from India and won Miss India, but it was called something else. I forgot the name of it, but I thought maybe
what was the name of the person that you just mentioned?
The name is spelled Preiety, because I might be pronouncing it wrong. And then her last name is Uppala, Upula.
No, I have no idea who that is.
Okay.
It's fine. I am supposed to know all Indians, so it's fine. Again, it's my fault. It is my fault. I think it's on me.
Hey, right. You should have done your research.
Yeah, I'm sorry about it.
So I have a couple of more little funnier questions that I want to ask you. If you could have any kind of superhero power to do anything you want, ever,
Wow. Yeah.
what would it be?
Huh. Funny story, but this is not my superhero power that I want. Back in school, when I was doing the whole stage shenanigans, I did this little character sketch kind of a thing, where basically I am the guy, I'm the superhero. I am basically the change man. Okay, the change man. So in Hindi, it is called Chutta Man, basically. The idea of change is like not making change, but change as in change for money.
Uh-huh.
So, for example, if people have $100 note, I'm the guy who comes and saves the day when they are being troubled and they don't have change, and I come with all the change there is, and I give, yeah, and I give them, and I give them the change that they need, and they are being really troubled, and they're not troubled anymore. So I save the day that way.
I love
That is, yeah.
I love that. That's a very kind way to go. Some
I
people
know.
choose like invisibility so they can watch people change their clothes.
Yeah.
um,
But that still I didn't want it to be my thing to do when I have superpowers. But let's just stick to that because that's just funny right now. I used to be very embarrassed of this, but right now it feels so funny.
no, it's a good one. I think it's a great choice. I really think it's a great choice. If you were on the run from the law,
Yeah.
you had to hide money, where would
Okay.
you hide it?
Wow. Okay. So there's only one thing that comes to my mind right now. So as you can clearly see, I'm a big fan of Breaking Bad. All right.
You both are.
So if I'm on the run from the law and I want to hide my money, I'm gonna go out to the desert, dig a big hole, and put all my barrels in there.
That's
Barrels of money in
that
there.
is
Yes.
where Mr. White left all his money. There's like $30 million still buried in the desert
I'm
somewhere.
sorry. It wasn't 30 million. It was 80 million.
80. Oh, sorry. My apologies. You definitely.
I take my Breaking Bad very seriously.
I understand that, and I can see that you do. Are there any comedy legends that you look up to in India? I don't know if there are any. Is there any American comedy presence out there? Do you see American comedy movies? Do you watch American comedians or comedians outside of India at all?
So locally, the legend that is over here, the comedy that I grew up with was basically Johnny Liver. So his name is Johnny Liver. He's a great stage act. He's great with mimicry. He's just great with observational comedy. He's just great. He's an all-round great guy, and he's an absolute legend. The amount of people that he has made, people laugh without offending them. It's remarkable. It's remarkable, really.
So he's a non-offensive comedian. Okay.
Yeah. So yes, everyone likes Johnny Liver. He's a great guy. So back in the day, the scene used to be very different. Now it's a lot different because times are different and people are outspoken and they use their fact that they are stand-up comedians. They use that to their advantage by being the voice of the voiceless, and by saying things that people don't say usually, and address matters and make light of it basically. So that's why they get into trouble. But yes, Johnny Lever is my legend over here. I'm really inspired by that guy. Even though I don't want to do stand-up at all, like ever. I'm not a stand-up guy. I have no interest in that. I love watching stand-up comedy. I respect the art form a lot, but it's just not for me. I don't want to do stand-up. I'm just a pure improv comedian. So when it comes to comedians from the outside, I would say that I am a big fan of. Okay, so you asked American comedians?
Americans or anywhere outside of India.
Anywhere outside of India. So I love Jimmy Carr. I love Aziz Ansari.
Very funny.
I love Whitney Cummings. I just admire her so much. Like, she's brilliant. She's like no holds barred. She just goes for it, and I just admire that a lot. I love Russell Peters. A lot of guys. So yeah, those are my top guys. I guess I'm having a hard time thinking of comedians right now.
No, I'm fair enough. I was
There
just.
are, there are so many. There's Ricky Gervais. I can't put my I can't put my finger on just one basically.
That's hard.
So,
it's hard.
Yeah.
I was curious if there was an American presence in your life watching comedy for the most part. Now, when you're before the pandemic started, were you doing live improv shows, and where would you do those shows?
Right. So I was definitely doing live improv shows. We have certain venues here that, well, not certain. So in Mumbai, basically, Mumbai is the place to be. And there are certain venues that look into comedy. We have that comedy club, we have the Habitat, we have the Cuckoo Club. And these are basically focused on performance arts, like for comedy and music and, stuff like that. Live theater and stuff like that. So even though the market is really small, that they appeal to, but it's great that we have certain venues that, promote the art forms and help artists, get out there basically.
Where else have you been up? You're running two of these things we talked about. You're running the Creative Humor and Improv Experience and World Improv. Tell me a little bit about those two projects.
Right. So Creating Humor is my baby, basically. It's the first project that I took up after learning improv and, doing it officially on stage. Because I was always a big fan and I just wanted to do it so badly. And finally, when the opportunity knocked, I just went for it. So Creating Humor is basically, it started off with being like a close-knit team of improvisers. But you know how in improv, not everything works out for the best.
Right.
So the idea now is to have basically a nice little pool of improvisers. It's like a pool of improvisers who actually perform on the shows. And so like in a team for improv, so it works in a way where if not one person is not available, the entire team gets affected and the shows do not happen. Or there's a lot of conflicts and no time for rehearsals or anything of that sort. So to avoid all of that, we have a pool of improvisers, and whoever is available to perform, we actually pick out those guys and we just do the shows basically regardless of people's availability. So that's what Creating Humor was. It was largely a short form show. It was more focused on comedy, as compared to theater. So so that was my original project. Yes.
Great. I love those projects. Did you ever watch? Does the show The Simpsons come up out there?
Yeah, it does. A lot of people watch it, but I personally do not.
You have never watched it. So are you aware of the character? There's a character, there's an Indian character who owns a 7-Eleven.
I know. I know.
How is that character perceived where you're from?
It's very stereotypical. From everything from accent to the mannerisms to the basic behavior of the character, I've seen certain clips of it, and it's like, okay, they are just going for the low-hanging fruits, I guess.
Yes, no, it definitely is. That was a lot of the Simpsons characters. They played on a lot of stereotypes, but I know that one was a big deal in the States a couple of years ago, where they made them change the character because they felt it was so offensive. So I was.
His name was Apu, right? His name is Apu.
Apu, yeah.
Apu, yeah.
Is that even a name?
That is just a sound, I guess. I mean, it can be a name. It can be a name because we have some really weird sounding names, so it can be a name. Yes.
In our last couple of minutes, I want to give you a moment to talk about where people can come see you, either online or live shows that are coming up. You have a lot going on all the time online, so
let's
talk about that.
Right. So this pandemic has helped quite a lot, reach out to and be connected with a lot of people. For example, DB Flick right here. So in the normal regular world pre-pandemic, I would have never known who the fuck this guy is. But now I know DB Flick. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm amazed by that. I agree.
There was there was no chance I would be on a show called Welcome Back to America with DB Frick, and it was never going to happen. Like Assad Khan is going to, who the fuck is this guy, Assad Khan? What the fuck? So yeah, this pandemic has connected a lot of people, and that has basically opened the doors to this project called the World of Improv, and it basically has the best improvisers from around the world. They get together, they form a team, a different team from for every show, and they just do shows online, streaming live on YouTube.
I love it.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Assad Khan. Thank you very much for coming down to the show tonight. This was a great interview. Love talking to you. Looking forward to talking to you more in the future too.
Thank you.
Welcome back to America, and we'll be right back after this. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Me llaman Dan Pablo y hace más de 20 años me enamoré de una colombiana. Viajé a su país y conocí un estilo de café muy distinto, muy especial. Ahora tostamos cafés excelentes, con alturas y microclimas diferentes, resultado en una taza muy compleja y muy rica, un sabor nuevo en el mundo. Fue un éxito. And I even got to keep the girl.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the show. Those were great interviews. Learned so much about India.
I did.
I didn't even know they had comedy out there. I had no idea.
I knew they were funny. I knew India.
I know a lot of very funny Indian people.
Yes.
And everybody knows two more tonight from around here at Welcome Back to America. Check us out next week. We're going to Florida. We're coming back to the States. We're going to Florida. And we've got Elkie Reed. She's a child star.
Very
She's
funny.
Also a genius at doing characters. She's so funny. I see her doing characters every week. And
I
she's
love her
great.
face. Her face alone.
She has a great face. So check out next week. Thanks for checking out the show tonight. Welcome back to America. We couldn't do it without you.
Yes.
It's actually not true. We don't. We do it without them. We don't really need them.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.